All right, so today we're talking about how to roll a 401k into a fixed indexed annuity. Josh, was it you that was just asking me about that this week?
Correct.
Okay, tell me your situation just so we can kind of use you as an example.
It was a gentleman. He's got, I think, like 48,000 or something sitting in an old 401k, and he was asking like about some of the fees that are associated. Like, if you pull money out of a 401, you're going to get a penalty. You're going to get the taxes. He was wanting to know if those things still applied with rolling it over. I know you spoke on like some companies, they have bonuses, for certain amounts that they're rolling over. So those were all kind of questions that he was having. And I just didn't want to steer him in the wrong direction.
We've talked a lot about how to find the client, right? So you're already helping them with life insurance or Medicare or health insurance or all the different things that we do. And you ask them the golden question, what do you have that acts like life insurance? I've got articles on my website that you can still use. You can link to them, put them on your own site. I don't care. They're not mine. I just found them somewhere. I thought they were great. So one that I like to show people is this: is your 401k underwater? So I don't want the customer to hear that I'm saying their 401k is bad. I've had a 401k at every company I've ever worked at because I didn't know what I know now. But I don't want them to think that I'm calling them an idiot because they have a 401k. I let Time Magazine and all these articles do that. Not really, but you catch my drift. I don't want them to hear that I'm saying you're silly because you have one. No, I've had one. We've all been in this position. We didn't know this stuff. So this article was actually written back in the 08-09 market crash, and it talks about Robert Shively spends his days on the golf course where many a dream come true, but not quite the way Shively does it. He's 68 years old. He's the cart mechanic at Niagara Falls Country Club. He gave 36 years of his life to this petroleum company, and they had a pension that was guaranteed, and he was going to receive $1,300 a month in retirement. Well, last minute they changed that, and they went with a 401k system instead of a pension because there's a lot of perks for the company by doing a 401k instead of a guaranteed pension. They're basically putting the risk on someone else. The risk is now on the 401k company, not on the company, because in the past with a pension, that company actually set aside funds and paid you out money when you retired. Now it's, Fidelity, Vanguard, Empower, whoever is managing that 401k. Now it's their responsibility. Not to mention all the tax perks that companies get. So basically, instead of getting $1,300 a month, because they switched to a 401k, he now gets $225 a month. So he had to go back to work. I see stories like this all the time. In fact, Teresa Ghilarducci is a professor that teaches retirement and securities, and I've noticed she's been on the news a lot, and I think it's like a podcast sort of thing, but she goes around interviewing retirees, and I just put this on my TikTok. She did this interview, I think on CBS or something. She interviewed a couple that was in their early 70s. Video starts off and she says, this is Bob and this is Mary. I forgot their names. They're getting up at 5 a.m. They're packing their sandwiches in Ziploc baggies so they can go to work in their 70s. And then she interviews him, and she goes, "So what are you doing?" And he said, "I unload crates, some kind of crates at the docks, shipyard." And I think he makes like $14 an hour. And then his wife was a legal secretary, making $12, $13 an hour. And so when she asked him, she said, "Well, this retirement plan that you guys have, what do you call it?" And the lady goes, "I call it working every day." And then, he chimes in and says, well, back in the day, he was a simple farmer, and no one taught them how to retire. No one said how much you should save for retirement. No one even mentioned retirement. They didn't know. And so, they got into it a little bit late. They opened a 401k, and just like the average American, they have about $100,000 in their 401k. That's the average. And, I mean, you think about your bills and stuff, like how long is $100,000 really going to last? If you look at this article right here, it says, the ugly truth, though, is the 401k is a lousy idea, a financial flop, and a rotten repository of our retirement reserves. That's very strongly worded. and I didn't write it, right? So it's not like I'm saying, Josh, you're an idiot because you have a 401k. I can't believe you're that stupid. No, it's not like that. This is all fairly new information to most of us. Yes, this article was written, in 2009, October of 2009, but still, we didn't listen back then, and so many people lost half of everything they had saved for. And, if Josh's age, you're 24, you get younger every time I tell a story about you. If you're 24 like Josh, you have time to go through a crash and maybe make it up, maybe not. But if you're in your 60s and you're, thinking about retiring one day soon, and you had $1 million and you just lost half of it, you're in trouble. You don't have time to get that money back. There's no way you can get back $500,000 in the next few years before you retire.
Aren't they predicting another crash right now soon also?
Yeah, they keep predicting. They're always predicting a crash, and every other year is a crash. Technically, we have an expansion and we have a crash. That's why the whole growth pattern of, I'll get to annotate. Look at this. The whole growth pattern of like a fixed index annuity looks like this. Right? Because you have a zero floor, you can't lose money. So to me, that looks like a staircase that's always going up. And then you look at a 401k, and it looks like this. I call it the EKG. Because you never know what it's going to do. If you look back, there's a chart I found one day, and it says historic overview of all investments of all time. Like, it goes back like 100 years. And it's crazy. If you look at stocks, there is no predicting that thing like whatsoever. It's all over the place. It's hit or miss. It was the worst one. Then the article said if you were to try to pick something to put money into, and it's talking about the 401k, it said the 401k would be the worst idea because of the types of things that are invested inside of it. This is one from Ted Benna. I'm not going to read the whole article to you. You can do that on your own time. But Ted Benna is known as the father of the 401k. So I call him the founder. He didn't found it. It was already found. But he figured out what it was and basically how to use it. So he's the first one that actually wrote one and put it into action. At the time, it was like a little 2-page article inside of the tax code. And, he found out how to basically exploit it and put it into a company and how to use it. So he's known as the father of the 401k. Well, in his favor, when he created it, it was real simple. You only had 2 options. You could put some money in the market, which was variable. You could make money or lose money. And then you could put money over here in the fixed account. Well, people didn't know what to do. It was new. So we just said, let's just do 50-50, right? We'll put 50 over here where it's guaranteed, it's safe, it's protected. And then we're going to put the other 50% over here. But then he said Wall Street and the Federal Reserve took over. They're the ones that sponsor it now. And basically, it's all about how much money can they make. So now your money is mainly put into mutual funds. Ted went on record and said, I created a monster that should be blown up, and I'm now putting most of my money into a 501k. So he's been on Yahoo Finance Live with Adam Shapiro, where he said that live, and he's been on a couple of news stations. What's funny is that, when this happened, people would call us, and they're like, I need to upgrade my 401k to this 501k. And I'm sitting there going, what on earth is a 501k? I had to look into it. I didn't see him say that. What he meant was for it to sound like an upgrade, but using some type of LERP or laser fund. So liquid assets, safely earning returns, Doug Andrew, or just LERP, life insurance retirement planning. That's what he meant. So then people, all these financial people came forward and they're like bashing me on TikTok. They're like, 501k isn't even real. And I'm like, well, technically it is. It's talking about educational status of certain child care organizations. That's what the 501k actually refers to in the tax code. That's not what Ted was talking about. He was talking about it to sound like an upgrade. So, again, go through here and read this, but, Ted gives 10 reasons why he likes a 501k better. He talks about the contributions. You can get growth that's guaranteed and predictable. There's no volatility, which means when the market crashes, you can't lose money. You're in control. There's no government penalties or restrictions. You can touch your money anytime, or as we call it, the no 59.5 rule. You don't get a 10% penalty if you take out money under the age of 59.5. Speaking of taxes, tremendous tax advantages, liquidity, no fees to manage your account. So anyway, there's all these reasons. But if you look, number 6 right here, and I also have it linked right here, the 401k ultimate retirement scam. One is the tax deferral scam. So they're telling you, the government is telling you that you're going to come out ahead if you defer your taxes on a 401k for 30 or 35 years. So here's the question. If the tax rate were the same now or in 30 years, does it really matter when you pay the taxes? Because it's the same money. It's the exact same dollar figure. So does it matter when you pay the taxes? Not really. So if it doesn't matter, what does the government mean when they say you're going to come out ahead by deferring your taxes? Well, what they must mean is the tax rate's going to go down, because that's the only way you would come out ahead, is if taxes were down. So the question I ask clients is, do you believe the tax rate will go up or down in the future? And they always laugh. What do you think they say? They always say they're going to go up. That means you're sitting on a tax time bomb. Then you have this, the 401k employer match free money scam. And this part says, who doesn't love getting free money? Blah, 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 right? But look at this. The Center for Retirement Research did a study based off tax data, and they found that for every dollar an employer contributes to a 401k match, they actually pay 90 cents less salary to men and 99 cents less salary to women on average. So now somehow we got back to gender inequality. But essentially what they're saying is that they're going, hey, Dan, listen, man, we're going to pull this 90 cents out of your paycheck, and then we're going to go, here's that dollar. Don't spend it all in one place, brother. There's 10 cents. And if you're a woman, Brenda, here's a penny. Like, I don't know how that's even legal, but again, that's their study, not mine, so I'm going with it. And then also, you know, it says, plus, you don't even get all the employer match during the first 4 to 6 years that you work for the company. You need to be vested first. If you leave your job before that, typically you do not get the full match. And during the pandemic, some companies suspended their matching contributions altogether. They are not guaranteed. A lot of people don't know that. So now, knowing that you typically have to, and this is typical, this is just, you know, not a standard thing all companies do. I'm sure there's some companies out there a little different, but typically you have to be there 4 to 6 years to be vested, right, to get the match. Well, look at this. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average person a person stays on the job is only 4.1 years. So they're not getting the match anyway. Now, here's the big one. This is my favorite. The fees. You guys have heard me make fun of all the TikTokers that bash me about the fees on an IUL. You better ask him about all those fees. And I'm like, oh, good Lord, shut up. Like, if you had any idea how the fees worked on a 401k, like, they're like, just put your money in a 401k. And I'm like, seriously, you're hammering me about fees? You don't understand fees. So in the video that I explained fees, you know, right, the person was like 42 years old. And when he was, 70 years old, or 65, I think, the fee was $12,000 that year. Yes, the fee was high. But the index return, the credit he got, was $88,000. So I don't know if anybody out there dumb enough, except for a couple of TikTokers, that would not trade me, you know, their $12,000 if I gave them back $88,000. Most people would love to take that deal, except for, again, a few TikTokers. But you can't fix stupid, right? That's what Ron White taught us. So look at the fees on this. So if you had $100,000 in a 401k, and let's just pretend like you got 7%, you're not, but let's just say you are, for 35 years, you would have about $1 million, right here. So out of that $1 million, if you paid a 1% annual fee, that would mean that they took roughly 28.8% out of your nest egg, which is $307,000. That's insane. That's the fees. So when I post on Facebook the other day, just to get actual results, to see how, I don't want to say how dumb people are, but what's the word I'm looking for? How ignorant people are, right? Ignorant doesn't mean you're stupid. Ignorant means you've never been taught. I'm not making fun of you. You just don't know this because you've never been taught this. That's fine. I was ignorant before I knew this too, right? So I asked them, if I had $1 million in my 401k and I paid a 1% annual fee to manage my account, over 35 years, how much had they taken out? And everybody said $10,000. Because mathematically, 1% of $1 million is $10,000. But you know how an annuity and an IUL and an infinite bank all have uninterrupted compounding interest? Yeah, so does this fee. This fee has compounding interest on the fee. And that's why over that 35-year period, it's turned into 28.8%. That's 1%. So that's if they have, I mean, your standard companies, right? Just about all of them are about 1% now. Fidelity, Vanguard, I think Empower, not Prudential, is it Prudential? Principal. Most of those companies are 1%. I heard Edward Jones just went to 1.2, maybe 1.25. So they're closer to taking 40% of people's money. And then Raymond James, is 2%. And I ran into another one this week that they charge them 2%. They looked up their fees and they said, yeah, they charge 2%. I'm like, well, that's why you're losing money, because this person was in their 70s. So they're not putting money into it. Their company's not matching. And they're losing half of their money in fees. So, yeah, that's why they feel like they're bleeding dry. So that's what fees look like. Questions so far? We good? Yeah? All right, good. I hear your little rocks rattling. The next one says funding a 401k is like putting money in prison. You got to beg permission to use your own money, right?
Sorry, Shannon, I do have a question. So the fees, you said with the fees in a 401, it's compounding interest on the fees also?
It is. Yeah, you have to watch my video on, it's probably a 5 or 6 minute video, but it's worth it. I took a compilation of Ted Benna, Robert Kiyosaki, Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Dave Ramsey, all these people that are gurus that talk about the 401k now that they know what they didn't know before. And like Tony Robbins, I mean, he used to be on the board of directors for America's Best 401k. He went on CBS News. They interviewed him and they said, so tell us about these fees. And he said, fees matter and you're paying them. And he said a 1% interest compounding annually on a fee, he said takes between 20 and 30% of someone's nest egg. That's crazy. Then I found, this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, but yeah, you got to beg permission to use your own money. We actually had an office in Lexington, and I had a girl there that was licensed and did 401ks and Roths and all that stuff. And she kind of got away from it because of all this new light about 401ks. But she said she had a client call, and their kid had some kind of cancer and had to go to, I think it was like Georgia Aflac Children's Cancer Center, and they needed to borrow money from their 401k. And she said, well, how much do you think you need? And the lady said, we don't know. They're saying this may be like a 6-month treatment plan, and we're going to be in a hotel and traveling and eating out and stuff like that. So she said, we'd like to take $30,000 out of our 401k. My girl said, well, go ahead and borrow $45,000. She goes, no, I think I can make it on 30. She goes, no, you don't understand. This is a loan. You have to pay that back. Like, it's not like infinite banking where you don't have to pay it back if you don't want to, or you can pick how much you want to pay. No, you have a schedule payment you have to make. Well, since you're not going to be working and you're borrowing money to go through this experience, she said, take out extra money so you have money to pay the loan back. I'm like, that's so silly. I put all this money in there myself, and I got to beg permission to use it. That just never set right with me. Number 5, myth of market returns. This is a big one. I don't know how many people that I have met with that have told me. I had a guy, literally just had a guy probably 2-3 weeks ago, and I showed him some of this. He goes, well, my 401k has a 22% gain last year. And I said, okay, well, how much money did you lose? He goes, about $17,000, or 22% gain if you lost $17,000. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? But, people don't know how to do the math on their 401ks. And, even one of Tony Robbins' videos, he says, that Jack Vogel, head of Vanguard, taught me this. He said, people don't do the math. I'll play that video for you in a second. It's a great video. And then you can use that video and send it to clients that have a 401k and say, listen, I don't want you to think it's just me talking bad. Here's a lot of gurus. Just listen to what they say. And it's worth the listen. Most money in a 401k is invested in mutual funds. You're told that over the long term, you'll do well in the stock market. In the last 20 years, the average equity mutual fund investor has only earned 4.25%. Now, this was written in 2016. Today, that number, according to Investopedia and Forbes, is 4.1%. After decades of being lab rats and the great 401k experiment, most pre-retirees still don't have enough saved. So again, Teresa Ghilarducci, if you look up some of her stuff, she's great. But she said, we've run the 401k experiment for 40 years and pronounced it a failure. So once you find the 401k, right, you ask the question, what do you have that acts like life insurance? And they say, yeah, I've got 100,000. Since 100,000 is just, like I said, the most common answer.
Where are those articles at, Shannon?
All right, that's just my landing page. So if you click that, save it, go here, you'll see all these different articles. So the first 3 are all the Forbes talking about an IUL versus a 401k, an IUL versus a Roth, Harbaugh uses an IUL, so those are great for IUL clients. And then these three right here are talking about really just anybody that has a 401k. This is just great information. This article is good too. This helps with 401k because it's talking about the difference in IUL and a 401k. So what I love is this one right here. Why might an IUL be better than a traditional 401k? The 401k is a tax code given by the IRS. It taxes you on your harvest, not your seed, which means you're being taxed on the gains, right? What grows, not what you initially put in. The 401k model was implemented in the 80s during the Reagan era for rich CEOs to have a tax shelter, somewhere to put their money over time. What that means is to hide their money from the government so they didn't have to pay taxes. And the federal government has tried to make life insurance taxable 3 times, and they've lost each time. There's too many powerful people that know how life insurance works, and they hide their money there, right, to avoid paying taxes. They use it to buy things like real estate. Like, they know how they make money using this. It's one of the best kept secrets of the rich. They're not going to let anything happen to this thing. They're not going to let them make it taxable. Listen to this next sentence, because the word convince to me means to sell you on this idea. What they found was if you could convince the middle class to put all their money into 401ks, you can get more tax payouts later on in life and collect more from the middle class. It was never supposed to be a retirement account. Never. It was never intended to be a retirement account. It was supposed to be a supplement to pension and Social Security. The idea was you were supposed to keep offering the pension, big corporation, and allow the person to sign up for additional benefits with a 401k that would supplement their income. But again, big companies saw a way to exploit that and go, hey, we don't even have to offer this pension. We can just offer the 401k. All right, so let's just say I'm in Kentucky, and there's 2 different ways that I would go here if I'm doing an illustration. It really depends on a lot of questions, and a lot of those questions are on my SRS question list that you can download from the Facebook group. But one of those is, how do you want to use the money? When do you want to use the money? If they say, I want to use the money right away, or I want to flip houses or use it to buy something, then basically I'm going to go with a plus, because a plus offers me a liquidity rider bonus. I get a bigger bonus, and I have access to my money immediately. If I don't really need to access the money, we just took $40,000, we don't need to access the money. We don't plan to, so I put it into the elite. The elite's probably going to grow a little better than the plus. This would be a good fit here for your guy. Let's just look at this and run your dude, and let's see. So he was 66, male, state doesn't really matter. You don't have to have an illustration for an annuity. I just use them to show people. What's the money coming from, Josh? Is it 401k?
401, yep.
Okay, so it's qualified money. And those are other questions like when can I roll my 401k? Typically, if they're with their employer, they can't roll the money. You can't access it. That's why it's called the government trap. Like, once you sign up for a 401k, you're stuck with it. You have to leave the job somehow, right? You have to get fired or quit, whatever, before you can, before that becomes an orphaned account, before you can touch that money. Now, it is at the discretion of the employer or the plan administrator. So you could contact your company and say, hey, I want to take my 401k and do something else with it. There's a slim chance they're actually going to let you do that, especially if it's a big corporation like a hospital or something, a bank. But if it's a small mom and pop shop, with 50 employees or less, it's real easy to go, hey, Brenda, listen, man, Josh really wants access to his 401k. He doesn't like how it's performing. Can you let him out of that? And they can. The easy, I guess, kind of dirty way around that was you could quit today, take out your 401k, and then come back to work tomorrow. As long as Brenda, knows that's the plan, and you're not actually getting fired, then we're good. But there are ways around it. All right. So anyway, we're going to put 15-year. This is when it annuitizes, by the way. So in 7 years, 10 or 15, they could actually pull all the money out, reinvest it, do something else with it. People typically like how these operate, so they just leave them in there. So I go with 15-year. One of our guys is one of our top guys. He just does a 10-year for everybody. What I learned was the 10-year does worse than the 7 and the 15 in every situation I've ever seen. I've ran a chart to show you. Here's how much money you would have. Here's the death benefit, and I compared all 3 of them, and the 10-year lost each time. So I like either a 7 or 15, but so 15 years, I put in my 48,000, and then I click strategy preset. In this case, I'm going for growth. We want the money to grow. and it automatically picks all my indices or all the different strategies. Anyway, I don't have to worry about that. That's done for me. So 15 years, put in the number of how much they're rolling, put in strategy preset, and then pick growth. That's the easiest way to do this. Next, you're going to go to withdrawals. If they're going to withdraw, if they have plans to withdraw, then you can turn this on. I'm going to leave it off for your case just so we can compare apples to apples. So all I need to do is hit report and print. Here's the $48,000 that your client put in. You can see a premium bonus here of $7,200. So 20% bonus. So when they ask the questions of, well, won't I get a penalty? Well, the penalty, for one, the penalty is if you're 59 and a half or less. Your client's 66, so there is no 10% penalty. So he's good there. Then you got a 20% federal tax hit. This is another thing that David McKnight bashed me on because he said in my video, I just assumed that her tax bracket was 20%. That's not what I assumed. He cut out the part where I said, you're going to lose 20% to federal taxes because that is standard. So I feel like he kind of chopped up my video just to make it sound like how he wanted to sound so he could drive, traffic to his site instead of mine. But that's fine. Play dirty tricks. I don't do that. So anyway, you put in 48, and instead of losing 20% to federal taxes, we gain 20% in an actual bonus. And you got to be careful there because not all companies give an actual bonus. This is real money. This is real money that goes into your account. So assuming that he didn't touch anything, he has access to withdraw money from this. But if he didn't, they would force him to take RMDs, in this case, at age 73. Who knows what RMD is? Required minimum distributions. So at some point in life, they're going to say, all right, listen, you have to start taking money out of this thing. And that's what an RMD is. So your RMDs are forced withdrawals. So let's just say this guy dies at 85. I'm not putting any bad juju on him. I just want to, hopefully he lives longer than that, right? But so by age 85, because of his RMDs, he has withdrawn $164,000. So Josh, you write these down? Write down these numbers for me. Pretty please. So your guy put in 48. So far, he has been paid out $164,000, and then he leaves behind a death benefit to his loved ones for $352,588. So add those together, 3, 4, a little over $500,000. So we turned his 48 into a little over $500,000. Not bad, right? So now let's compare that to a different product.
No, I don't think you did.
Okay.
I think you
well,
did.
That was a 18% bonus. Then I probably said that wrong. 16, 18, I forget what it is. So let's see. Same thing. We're not changing anything. We're just going to put in the 48,000 again. We're going to put it back on 15 years, strategy preset, growth, and run it. All right, so here we go. Now this one is the plus version. So this one, there are some fees. It's not a fee to manage your money like it is with like Edward Jones, Vanguard, Fidelity, to manage your account. There's no fees for that. But there are some fees. In this case, there's a liquidity rider fee. So they're charging 0.95% essentially, plus another 1.25. I can explain that later. But so 48,000 goes in. We have a $9,600 bonus. And what this does, it allows me to access more of my money faster. In the previous one we looked at, I had to wait 1 year. I couldn't touch money for the first year. The next year I have access to 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%. This one allows me access 10% day one. Like as soon as they put the money in here, boom, they have access to about $5,700 if they wanted it. So if they're using it to put that money into an infinite bank or an IUL, that's about $6,000 a year roughly that you could pull out of this and put into your IUL to fund your IUL. But in this case, we're just comparing which one's going to grow the most money. So, and if he died by age 85, where'd my little thingy go? 85. So we're right here, age 85. He would leave $587,000 behind. So which one of those earned him more money, Josh?
This one did.
What was the other one? 587 compared.
It was a little over 500 on the other one.
Okay, like 510 or 515 or something.
Yeah,
so
somewhere around there.
So this one still won. So the one with the bonus actually won in this case. So I run those all the time just to see which one performed better. Look at this. Like it really just depends on how much they have and what you're doing with it. So we had a client that was qualified. we'll just say,
So let's say, like in his case, right? Like he was originally going for life insurance, right? But some of the life insurance prices were, maybe let's say they're a little bit out of his budget. Could this be a way for him to, use it as life insurance as well?
yeah,
It
a lot
might
of
it
people
might
do.
be better for him where he might not want to necessarily pull out a bunch of money right away. He might want to let it compound so that it can be used for, a death benefit in a way.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people do that, especially if they have health issues because there's no health questions. These are based off federal suitability guidelines. Example I had was, we had a guy that put in $500,000 from an old 401k, set it up the same way, strategy preset, growth. And then the way I set it up was I did a free withdrawal, right? And you can access 10% for free immediately. So I did just for the first 5 years. What if we pulled money out of that and I used that to fund my IUL or my infinite bank, right? Participating whole life. Depends on what they want to do with it. If they want long-term growth or if they want to use it like a bank account. So now look, we put in $500,000. We got a $100,000 return immediately, like day one, premium bonus. Here's $100,000, Josh. Thanks for doing business with us.
Yeah, no kidding.
Your test and it said you can't rebate more than $25. Yeah, this is a $100,000 rebate, but not really, because this is how it works. We're not giving them that money. It's coming from Athene, obviously, and it's being put into their account. So the way this is set up, they can access 10% for free. So they don't have to, but this means that they could access 10% of whatever their accumulated value is, which is right at $50,000, $60,000. So I'm taking, let's just say 50 to be safe. I'm taking 50,000 out of this and I'm using it to fund an infinite bank. So I actually drew a picture of this for the client. I just now thought of this. This might come in handy. Let's see, FFL pictures. It should be in here. Yeah. So look at this. Have I shown you all this before? I just did this like last week. So here's what we did. We took his $500,000 and we dumped it into the annuity. We got a $100,000 bonus. We now have a cash value bucket with $600,000. We also have a death benefit bucket that's over here working. We're going to leave somebody money, right? So we have two buckets. Then we're pulling 10% out of this that's $60,000. We're pulling 10% out annually, which is $60,000, and we're feeding the infinite bank with it. So now I have a $60,000 annualized premium policy. What's the biggest premium policy y'all have ever sold? Like, think of that in your head. Most of the time, you're
not 60,000.
Right. Most of the time, you're dealing with people that are like, I really need this. Uncle Bobby just died of the COVID, and we don't want to have to go through that and have our kids go through that. So we need a life insurance plan. We really want this. We want $20,000. How much is it? And you go, all right, it's going to be $40 a month. And they're like, that inwards breath through the teeth is not a good sign. All right, I'll just teach you some psychology on body language. When they go, that's not good. Nobody goes, nice place you have here. Who's your realtor? In this case, we're taking $60,000 and feeding this life insurance policy, and then it also has a death benefit. So I just taught this person how to take $500,000, roll it into an annuity, and then use the annuity to fund the infinite bank or IUL. So now I'm earning money in 4 different buckets, and I didn't cost them anything. They're beating you up over $40 a month on the policy that they called you and said that they really, really, really wanted. And I'm getting $60,000 of premium from somebody that just understands how money works after I've explained it. If I jump straight in and start talking price and sales, if I sell on price and feature, I'm just like every other agent. If I build value and I educate, and just me personally, I'm not a one-call closer. When I'm dealing with $500,000, I'm not going to meet Brenda off TikTok and go, hey, Brenda, why don't you send me your $500,000 today? That's a little weird. People out there might do it. Sorry if I called you weird, but for me, listen, let's answer all the questions you have. You're the one that contacted me, right? You filled out the lead card. So you're the one that asked for help. Let me start with your questions. What kind of questions do you have? How do you want this to work for you? Like when I'm selling IUL, one of my first questions is, all right, so why do you want one? Like I have them sell me on why they want an IUL so I can gauge kind of what they know about it, right? Like what is their knowledge of an IUL at this point? And a lot of people have the misconception because there's so many TikTokers out there saying, you can open up this policy for $100 a month and you get a $500,000 death benefit. Then you can borrow from the death benefit. People think they can give me $100 today and then they can borrow $500,000 tomorrow so they can go buy a golf course. I'm like, that's not how it works. You can't borrow from the death benefit. The death benefit's the collateral, right? So just educating people on how this works. And then usually by my second or third, meeting, I mean, we're creating this in the first meeting. I'm asking questions about you. I'm asking questions about, your situation and what your goals are. Once I figure out what they need, I recommend a product. The next thing I do is I share this with them. A lot of people say, don't ever send them your illustration. Why? They're going to shop around anyway. I would rather go ahead and say this. Listen, Brenda, I assume I'm not the only person that you met on TikTok. I'm not the only person that you filled out the little, lead card for. So, when you talk to those other people and you show them my work, all I ask is that I get to see their work. So when whoever you talk to, say, I want the illustration emailed to me. And when you get that, if you will, just send it to me. Because, I want to see what they're doing and compare it. But we have every company at our disposal. We're getting ready to get a new system that's going to be pretty awesome. And I'll show you a little bit of how it works. But let's just say for fun, I'm using this client right here. Like I said, they put in $500,000. They got a $100,000 bonus. If this person died at 85 years old, look at this. At 85, they put in $500,000. They have withdrawn $288,000, and now they're leaving $11 million behind. So, and this is why I ask questions on how they're going to use it, because if they don't have kids or people they want to leave it behind to, I want to take this number and put it over here so that the majority of that money is something you're using during your lifetime, right? Like while you're here, let's use it on you. Now, if you have,
so how do you change that?
Just different products. I would pick a different product. Choose when they would start taking money out. They can log in year to year. If they didn't take this money out, believe it or not, let's say this year right here, if they took 0 out this year, it would actually roll over and they could take 20% out this year. But I could change this up and I could show them, like, let's just say that we are just going to use this to, I don't say to live on. There's another product that we can use that with, but let's see. Free withdrawals, 1 through maturity. Or let's say, how does this person, 55. So let's say year 10 through maturity, 10%. That's why this is so hard. When people say, well, send me some information. Okay, I got 200 companies. They all have 15 products. They can all be structured like 19 different ways. I've got, 84,000 options. Which one do you want? You want to read 84,000 brochures or... All right, so now it would show this. So instead of taking money out at the beginning, I put the money in there. They get the bonus. They let it just sit and grow. And then look, they start pulling $175,000 out when they retire at age 65. Now that's going to fluctuate. It's going to go up and down because the market's going up and down. This is what the computer thinks the market's going to do. One thing Athene is good at is predicting what the market's going to do. They've actually won awards on performance. And I send those to people. I'm like, look, here's the awards that Athene wins every year. But in this situation, by age 85, now look, they put in $500,000, and at age 85, they've pulled out $4.4 million while they're alive. Now they only leave $1.8 million behind, which is fine. They don't have anybody to leave it to. Imagine if they left it to their church. I'd be real excited if I was the preacher and I got a check for $1.8 million because Susie died and left it to me. That'd be crazy. But that way I got to use more money while I was alive. So this is what's coming. We can go to Fixed Indexed Product List. It loads every company that offers annuities. And then look at this. It sorts them. So if I have somebody that wants to do infinite banking, for example, I'm not selling sell based off the bonus because the non-bonusable products typically will grow better than non-bonusable products. But in this case, the person that's putting down $500,000 and wants to take money out of it and put it into a life insurance policy to earn more money, I care about the bonus. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick what state they're in. We'll just go Kentucky. Premium, I'm putting in $500,000. Age, my client's 55. I don't really care about any of these other things. I'm just going to hit search. So this is going to scrub let's say states that don't allow a product for a 55-year-old or, whatever. I mean, they do have age limits, but it's going to scrub it for all the things that I just put in. So then I'm going to sort by the bonus. So look at this, bonus, boom, premium bonus. So here's what I've got. North American. If I'm going by bonus, I'm probably going to pick one of these. I'm just going to pick a few. So I'm going to pick these top plans, right? I picked probably the top 10. I'm just kind of rough, quick guessing here, just to give me some options, right? I thought I did. It says 14 now. I don't know. Open report. So here's what's coming soon. Check this out. All right, so this is rating them by A and Best. These all have at least an A or a B rating, so I'm not worried about that. Max age. My client's 55, so the max age doesn't really matter to me, but if I had somebody that's 76, obviously, like the North American Charter Plus 14 is out because you got to be 75 or under, right? So this shows me my age brackets, so I can do one of these on an 85-year-old. That's what this tool is good for. Minimum premium. This is how much you have to start a plan. So like 75,000 is the minimum to get one of those policies with North American. 100,000 is the minimum to get Ibexus Wealth Defender. So my person has 500,000. So again, this column doesn't matter to me in this scenario. Okay. Premium type is how they're putting money into it. Are they putting money in one time? Like American Life, Athene. All of the Athenes are always going to say single. They only allow you to put money in one time. That's it, period. Matter of fact, if you transfer somebody's money, and let's say there was some kind of index crediting options, and they got an extra, like I did this for my mom. She got they emailed me. They said, hey, there was another like $68 that just came in. We can't put it in her account because her account's already open. What do you want us to do with it? I'm like, send her a check, I guess. I mean, it's $68. But they'll ask you every time. So anyway, single. Or like this, you can put in as much money as you want anytime in the first year. So imagine, you transfer 500,000, you come into a little bit of extra money, you can dump that in too. The bonus is what I'm sorting by, so that is important to me. So what I'm looking for is the biggest bonus, but then because I want to use this money to withdraw from my annuity and fund my infinite bank, right, my IUL or my participating whole life, I want a big bonus, but I also need access to my money. This one is great. It has a big bonus up to 27%, but it doesn't allow me any access to my money the first year. I have 10% after that, so the next year I do have 10%, so that's good. So this one's still a contender. I could still use it, especially if I get a good bonus. I just have to understand I can't touch it for the first year. Typically what I'm looking for is a company that has year one with a 10. So I'm looking for high bonus and a 10 right here. So 10% right here, and I've got a 21% bonus. That's good. Or I've got Athene right here with 20% bonus, and again, 10 and 10. And then this is what we actually wrote, was this one. So again, 20, 10 to 10. So in this case, either Athene or Security Benefit would be my top choices. That's how I would find out which product I need.
This is Kay. So you may have answered the question. I'm not sure. I heard the answer to the 59 and a half, or if your client is over that age, are we able to tell them that they don't have any fees? They can just make the withdrawal from the 401k in the name of the annuity that we're rolling it to.
So we take care of all of that. All we need is one of their statements, and then when we do the application, we put in who it's coming from, kind of like a 1035 exchange on life insurance. We put in the seeding company's name, the account number, how much money they have, how much money we're taking if we're not taking it all for some reason. So we do all the transfer, and actually there's a button you can select that says, do you want to start the transfer and all the paperwork, or do you want Athene to do it for you? We always want Athene to do it for us, so less work for us. So yeah, it's all an automated process. They don't have to do a thing. All they do is they do an application, just like a life insurance application. They sign at the end, and that's it. They sign and they're done. Athene will approve them usually within a day or two, and then we wait, anywhere from a month or 4 months to get the money from the seeding company. They like to hold it as long as they possibly can.
So is there a penalty for somebody 59 and a half or younger? Is that what you were saying?
if they're 59 and a half or younger and they try to access money within their 401k, they're going to be hit with a 10% penalty.
But not to roll it over still.
No. They don't have any fees, any penalties, anything. So if they were to take that 500,000 and cash it out, they would lose.
Then there's a fee
right off the bat. I mean,
Okay.
What is that? I can't
Gotcha.
150,000. But if they roll it, they don't lose anything. They get a 20% bonus in this case.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hey, Shannon, I had a question.
Yeah.
Hey, if you had somebody who, like, say they're 64, 65, and they have, let's say, $1 million in a TSP, but they're going to need access to some of the money when they retire, would you just try to get them the bonus and roll over some of the money and do a calculation on how much money they'll need? Because they can only take 10% penalty free during that bonus period, right?
So they can pull 10% from the annuity. They can pull 10% every year. So yeah, if they took $1 million and they got a bonus of, let's say, $200,000, they're going to have $1.2 million. They could withdraw just roughly $120,000 day one.
Oh yeah, so that'll be enough to live off of there. Okay, that makes sense.
What I would do is take that 120, put that into a participating whole life, because that's a bank account where they can access their money tax-free, penalty-free, fee-free, no rising cost of insurance, all that. Now they're taking 120 grand out of their annuity and they're putting it in their bank account, and their bank account's earning them another 10% interest. So they're just daisy chaining along all their different their money, and it's growing in 4 places. $1 is literally being used over and over and over.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk. We gotta talk offline. Okay, thank you.
It's opening up cans of worms right now, Shannon.
Good.